Welcome to this week's episode of Pondering Play and Therapy with me, Philippa. And this week, my guest is Sara Amanda, and she is a relationship manager for the Arts Council England, a diversity relationship manager for London. And Sara Amanda is also a playwright, a director, and a dramaturg. So, welcome,
Bye.
Sara. And my first question really is, what is a dramaturg?
What is a dramaturg? A dramaturg is, okay, this is like how I like to say what a dramaturg is. I like to say that a dramaturg is a fairy godmother of a script. We help turn your pumpkins into carriages. We support playwrights, artists, because you can dramaturg literally anything. And we support artists and playwrights and writers to really find the magic within the script, whether that's themes, arcs, character development. We kind of work with them throughout that process. We're really quite process driven. We can work in rehearsal rooms, we can work in devising. So we're just there sometimes like a critical friend, but also as a guide as well, just to help shape the piece or the performance.
So it's like bringing the best out of
Yeah,
somebody and
sure.
kind of mentoring them along the way.
Yeah, like that. A little
Yeah,
bit of coaching maybe, but we don't drive the process. We
yeah,
hold it. So,
yeah.
uh,
So
so yeah,
it's whoever's created it, it's their ideas, it's their thoughts, and
sure.
you're just there kind of, I
Yeah,
guess, scaffolding them in a way so that they
perfect.
can.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's interesting. I never even knew one of those existed. So
Special.
you've got quite a diverse range of roles, really.
Yeah, yeah, I have.
Uh, and so just tell us a little bit about what a relationship manager is, because again, when you think about the theatre,
Yeah,
I that's not something I would ever think about, really. I just
yeah.
so tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean?
Being a relationship manager for ACE is so I'm based in the theatre team and my job is quite split. So I'm a relationship manager for theatre and diversity. And the theatre element is where I support NPOs, which are national portfolio organisations. So those are organisations, theatre companies that the Arts Council England invest in. So they fund those organisations to deliver art in its various forms. So it might be working with young people, having youth programs. It might be supporting new writers. It might be putting on specific shows. And it also depends on what the sort of niche of that theatre is. And then the diversity side is I work across London, across all art forms. That's whether it's visual arts, dance, combined arts, music, diverse led organizations, and it encompasses all different types of organizations that we would consider diverse. That could be, it could be, say, based on it's a queer led organization or it's a queer artist, or it could be that it's an organization that works particularly with migrants and things like that. So I would reach out to those organizations, or those organizations would reach out to me. I might go and watch some work that they do. It might be something participatory, so I might go to a workshop, or I might go to a sharing and stuff like that. So it's a really like diverse role, but it's really working with, I would say, quite grassroots community organizations and artists that we don't necessarily see. But then it could be something, say, for instance, that's on at, I don't know, Sadler's Wells, and it's about world dance. So I might go and see that and connect with that company as well.
And what's the purpose of connecting with them? To promote them, to link one another up? Why are you doing that?
So it's really important. And one of the beautiful things about the Arts Council is about connecting and showcasing and celebrating the really rich, diverse artistic tapestry, if you want, around the country. And so by going out and seeing what's being funded, connecting with people who may perhaps have an amazing idea that they want to get funded, so they might want some advice and guidance. And I think one of the beautiful things that I love about being a relationship manager is connecting organizations to artists, connecting artists to different artists, the organizations to different organizations, making introductions, supporting organizations by going and seeing their work, the same with artists. I think that's a beautiful part of the job. I've gotten to know organizations and artists that I just would not have known existed. You get to see a beautiful a range of work, and it makes me really excited because I think, especially given the time that we're in at the moment,
Mhm.
it is really nice to see how people are responding to that, and they're responding to it through art, and we are funding those organizations and artists. I think it's really quite beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's lovely. And you, so I'm guessing that you get money from the government, do you? Or do you have
Yes.
to fundraise or
Yes. ACE is a government body that is funded by the department. Oh gosh, I think it's the D. Sorry, I'm quite new as well. And I've got dyslexia. So it's digital culture, I think it's media and sports that
okay.
fund ACE. So we are a public body that gives out public money. So there are
Yeah.
accountability for us, there's accountability for me as an RM. And so that's where the money comes from. You can apply, people can apply for different programs. So there's developing your creative practice. So if you're an artist and you want to go and spend time developing your craft, you can apply for that. Let's say you've got an amazing project idea, you can apply for a national lottery grant. And then there are other organizations that apply for NPO status and all different things. So
Okay.
it's in any austerity, cost of living crisis, money is very limited, competition is very high.
Yeah.
But I encourage everyone to, if you've got a creative practice and you want to develop that, or you've got an amazing idea, then there is opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm guessing it's not, from what you were talking about there, it's not just the big productions. It can be the one person production
Yeah.
or the community
Yeah.
in Islington or somewhere that might
Yeah.
have an idea and they can think, "Oh, okay, we might get some support from the Art Council
Yeah. Yeah.
and talk to you." And
Yeah.
what kind of things do you see? Just because I guess
Oh,
we don't
wow.
see those things.
So what kind of things do I see? I saw an amazing, absolutely amazing production by, in fact, one of my MPOs, the Yard Theatre in Hackney, Hackney Wick. And oh gosh, it was a response to, I think it was a response to something. And this is the amazing thing about being menopausal, having dyslexia and ADHD, is that I can
That's okay.
just all goes. But it was their youth production. It was it was directed by an amazing director, Tristan. And it was these young people, they were political. The acting was just off the chain. And one of the actors had literally jumped in on that day, and you would have never known.
Wow.
You would have never known. They were on point. Oh, it was phenomenal. So I saw that when I first started ACE. That was brilliant. I saw, what have I seen recently? I saw Not Your Superwoman at the Bush Theatre. I saw, oh my gosh. Oh, okay. I think Every Brilliant Thing by Duncan Macmillan at
Okay.
Soho Place Theatre. I think it's coming to the end of its run, and I think every couple of weeks a different they had a different person doing it, so it brought a different energy. So the first one was Lenny Henry, Johnny Defoe, Ambika, I can't remember Ambika's surname, South Asian, and Minnie Driver. So I think Minnie Driver's
Okay.
doing it quite right now. So I saw Johnny Defoe, who was the original actor in it when it came out many years ago, and I saw Ambika's version as well. Beautiful.
Okay, it's lovely to see all that passion and excitement just from
Yeah,
that one question that
yeah.
I can see in you. And so the arts, I've interviewed a couple of people who kind of work in creative arts
Mhm.
and use creative arts with young people, or Peppy Hills, who I interviewed not long ago. She uses it with people who've been displaced and can't come to
Mm.
England, and about homeless and trying to find
Sure.
status here, and actually maybe don't have the words yet for their experience, but using the creative arts and
Yeah,
dance and just gives them a way of expressing maybe
for
some of
sure.
those horrific experiences that they've had
Yeah.
in a way that traditional talk therapy and that just isn't accessible for them at the moment for lots of different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we first connected when you were doing some work with around mental health and supporting
Yeah.
children with mental health and young people. Could you just tell us a little bit about that, Sarah?
Sure. Sure. So I think that's when I was at Lewisham Youth Theatre, and what we had done was developed some creative workshops that looked at developing a sort of a mental health toolkit for young people. Maz, who was our outreach producer at the time and is now the participation manager, she came up with this fantastic idea of creating this little toolkit. And it was like, on days when I feel sad, and it had all these positive things, but they could fill it out themselves. So through the workshop helped them put all these self-care tips and self-love tips into this little booklet. And the workshop was designed for young people that weren't at the threshold for being able to access CAMS. CAMS is incredibly oversubscribed, and young people can fall into this place where they're not quite they need support, but they're not,
Mm.
the support isn't as high as it would be for somebody that could access CAMS. And even if they do get onto CAMS, then there's quite a long waiting list. An amazing director said to me once, drama is therapy and therapy is drama, which whatever you're looking at, you're going to find something that you can
Mm-mm.
create. So what we did was we had these workshops for these young people. I think it ran over a half-term week, and they looked at character. So they weren't looking at themselves, they were looking at another character. And then it was around, what would you do in this situation? How can we help that character? And they responded to it really well. They responded to it. The feedback was really good. Yeah, it was an interesting piece of work.
Because I think that kind of movement, creativity can really support people's
Oh,
mental health. Even if you're not in the arena of actually, really need some support and I'm struggling,
mhm.
just just going out and moving and connecting
Yeah,
and doing something a bit different can be really helpful, can't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, it can. I think that once you get a group of people in a room and you start working with and play, oh my gosh, I cannot explain how important it is to play as an adult. And I think we lose that because life takes over and then we're all adulting, you know. But one of the things that I love, one of the part of the practice that I love, and I didn't initially like it, is devising and getting in a room and playing, doing some improv. doing a check-in, a silly game or something just to get you moving and present and in the space. And then I think from that, I have a colleague who specializes in like self-care, play, and devising. So at the end of the session, you will have devised something.
Mm-hmm.
When I lived in Birmingham, there was an organization, I think it's called, oh, I hate this. I can't remember. Maybe
Why don't you email me?
I will.
And I
Yeah.
will put it in the description.
Yeah.
So the organisation in Birmingham, we'll put at the end.
Yes.
We'll put in
Yeah.
the
I think
write
it's
up.
open theatre. It might be open
Okay.
theatre. I spent 3 days. So open theatre work with young people with SEND needs, and a majority of the young people that they work with are non-verbal. So what you might go in, because my undergrad's in theatre, sorry, is in applied theatre with community and education. So I did a lot of work around theatre and education. And we typically, when you go in, you're going to do a workshop, you're going to speak to the young people, we're going to do some in-role play or something like that. But when with open theatre, because it's all non-verbal, you have to do things differently. You can't necessarily go in and say, oh, hey, let's do this, I'm going to do this. You have to reach them and communicate in their way. So we might play with a scarf, we might play with a hat, we might play with an object. And what we were doing was this 3 days, no communication. We were communicating, but no verbal communication, learning new practice and new skills. And I thought I just had the best time. And I'm neurodivergent. I've got dyslexia. And then whilst I was studying my master's and just turned 50, I just was like, I was really struggling. And I thought, oh my gosh, I think I'm getting dementia. I really got quite scared and quite frightened. And it turned out that no, actually, it wasn't that. It was, I was perimenopausal or menopausal, I don't know. And yeah, we think that you're displaying signs of ADHD. And I was like, oh, really? And then I think partly to do with my age, I was able to get my screening, my diagnosis. And yeah, so being able to play and just be quite free. And I didn't realize either how much I masked. I must have just coped. Obviously, I was just coping. But when I got to uni and the pressure and the intensity of studying at that level, which I never embarked on thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be that hard. I thought an undergrad was difficult, but a degree, a master's was even harder. And that intensity. So I think it just appeared, but I've realized that I don't have to mask anymore. And that's why working in youth theatre with young people who were equally as neurospicy as myself was so much fun. I have to tell you this really amazing story. So when Wicked the film came out, I do love a musical. I am a bit past.
Oh, yeah. I
And
love a musical, I have to say. Yes.
you can't be in theatre and not love the odd music.
No.
Guilty pleasure. And I've already seen Wicked. So the film was coming out. I was like a child and it came out. And I went to go and see it. And the first time I went to go and see it, everybody was singing. And I was so annoyed because I just wanted to embrace myself in the film. So I went to go and see it again. And then came in and one of our young people had seen it as well. So we were gushing over all the different scenes. And then we got to the end and the two of us sang so loud and we were dancing. And where can you work where you can do that?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
All that energy that you've got built up and you're having to normalize being all quite conservative. you work in an environment like youth theatre, you get the opportunity to really bond, and you bond over your neurodivergence.
Yeah, and that's just lovely, isn't it? Because there is that you can just create something from nothing really, or from whatever you've got coming up for you that day. Because
Yeah,
every day can be different for all of us,
for
can't
sure.
it? And we're all a little bit neurospicy, I think.
Yeah, we are.
Definitely. So yeah, that's an amazing, and just helping people build that confidence. I work with lots of young people who've often had tricky starts in life and got lots
Sure.
of things going on, and joining dance groups or theatre for them, they
Hmm.
may really struggle at school. They may even, like you say, mask and struggle at home, but just that little bit of, they might never want to go on the stage
Yeah,
and do the end performance, but doing all the bits that lead up to that performance for them is so freeing and so positive, and building that sense
sure.
of self-efficacy and
Mhm.
self-esteem, really. It's just really lovely to
Yeah,
see that actually I am good at this, or I'm, even if they aren't participating in the acting, they're good at the lighting or the prop moving, or there's just, it feels like in theatre there's something
yeah,
everybody can do. You don't
absolutely.
necessarily have to act, do you?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think what was really interesting as well, being at the youth theatre, was that you would tend to find, and it is a bit of a generalization,
Yeah.
but it was an interesting generalization. So you tend to find that a lot of the, I'd say, the young people with maybe slightly higher needs would tend to go into tech, where they would just excel. They'd just be amazing. They would just be so phenomenal. There was one young person that really, he stood out because he was just, I think he's going to go off and be an amazing filmmaker. I really do. He's literally going to be he's made for the camera department. But yeah, so you tend to find those with slightly higher needs might be in tech. You would get young people who, and again, I have to take my hat off to Maz, who was the participation manager, and the way in which she would work with young people. Someone might come in and they'd be really withdrawn and not really participating, to getting them to the end of a program and just seeing a complete change in that young person, even if they just had one line.
Yeah.
And just to know that when they came in, everything was a no.
Mm.
And then through that process, that gentle process, she has a skill that her practice was so amazing to behold, how she worked with young people. I would just go in and just be really silly and sometimes probably disruptive, but it was a nice creative break
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
But she like really worked, and how she was just, she could respond in any moment to any situation to any young person. A completely different skill set to mine, but it was really beautiful to watch how she would guide and support young people through a creative process,
And
um to participate, which was fantastic.
yeah, and I guess that's the beauty of something that is less structured. We talk
Yeah,
about structure on the podcast all the
yeah,
time, and actually, that can be inhibiting in many ways. I just wanted to ask about your diversity role,
yeah,
and how I'm trying to think about the words to ask. Lots of things are very white, middle
mm,
class orientated, aren't they? Even
yeah,
going to the theatre, it's a
yeah,
very white, middle class oriented or upper class
yeah,
oriented. That the diversity is less. Accessibility can be quite difficult in some older theatres. If you, how does that work? How is the arts? How is the theatre kind of encouraging all that diversity, and with moving for gender roles, for
Mm.
for the for all that kind of stuff? How's that shifting within?
I think theatre is really creating space. I'm not saying it's perfect. I think there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think in terms of representation, we're seeing a lot more diversity on our stages. I think that there could be more resources to support more diversity. And when I talk about diversity, I'm talking about all the protected characteristics. In terms of what we can see on our stages, we're seeing a lot more, and a lot more radical companies, whether that's queer companies, whether that's companies that are looking at race. There are companies that are coming out now and they're doing things around. I went to, oh my gosh, I went to my first deaf festival in Brighton.
The first one, can I just say that
Deaf,
again?
deaf,
Deaf, deaf.
deaf. Yeah,
Okay,
deaf
okay, deaf.
festival.
Okay,
I've also got a lisp as well, so that
no,
probably.
that's fine.
So I went to my first deaf festival. It was called Flare Wave in Brighton. So it was a 3-day festival, and I went for one of the days. And wow, I learned about the deaf community. I learned about, because I would say someone experiencing deafness, and then I realized that some people like the term deafhood and how that community functions. And there was an amazing um, academic doctor there, and he said that his research looked at the different binaries. He approached deafhood as a piece of post-structuralist, postmodernist, yeah, post-structuralist. So that was his thesis, but it was rooted, that was the sort of like theory for it. And he was looking at deafhood, and one of the things that he stood out, and he said it's actually an ethnicity because of how the community is structured. Some really great, I want to read the book that he's written actually. And so it's supporting and it's looking at work like that from different communities that are not necessarily mainstream, that are like growing. There's another festival in Wales, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make that one. So that was really important. There deaf rappers, there's deaf raves as well. I went to an exhibition called it was at the Welcome Collection, and I think it was called Fingers Talking. Yeah, Talking Fingers or Fingers Talking. And that was a film, but you could put on a vest and feel the vibrations to the music. And that's how a deaf person might not hear music the way we hear it, but will feel this vibration and it would vibrate. I just think being able to experience, this is the beautiful thing about theatre as well, is that it gives you, you can have a sort of, is it vicarious? Yeah, vicarious
Yeah, yeah,
experience. So it's not your experience, but you can make connections. I think theatre has this ability to be quite universal in the fact of what characters experience, and we get a connection in what it means to be human. I might not be a I might not be somebody who is in a country where there is global conflict, but I get to see what that feels like in a theatre,
yeah.
and I'm in it, and it's happening, and it's live, and it's real, and I can feel it. And I think that is the power. And if we look over history, art has always told what's been going on socially or politically of the time. And it speaks to our times when we think about like in your face theatre in the 90s, when we think about some of those more traditional plays, I don't know, even some of Shakespeare's stuff. In it, what the core of it is human emotion. And yeah, so I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you have made a film around mental health.
Yes.
So we talked about I suppose, the theatre and the arts connecting to supporting us at all different levels. And
Yeah.
then I guess we can, it can then take on the more serious elements
Mm.
of some of life's experiences, really.
Yeah.
And so, could you explain a little bit about that for me?
Yes. So I wrote a song. It was called Red, actually, and I had I came across this really interesting article about a woman who had basically she died in her house by herself, and she'd been there for like 4 years, and I can't remember fully how she was discovered. I think it was the way in which she was discovered was almost like a fluke, but it was like, how in this day and age does somebody just die and
Yeah.
nobody knows anything, or no one rings an alarm, or it was just such a weird experience. And I kept thinking about this woman. I kept thinking, like, I wonder if she felt lonely. I wonder if she had any friends. I wonder. And so I went through this sort of thought process. So I wrote this script called Red that looked at this woman who she was spiraling. She was spiraling her. She'd been let go from her job. She had a kind of like relationship breakdown, and she was like self-harming, but there was no dialogue in this film at all. It was just about what this woman was going through, how we saw her walking down the road, and then in the end she makes this decision to take her own life. And I didn't put the film out there because I felt like I've got a real big responsibility as an artist to material I put out there. And I think at the time I didn't feel confident that I wasn't glorifying something for my own artistic desires. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. But the script was very strong, and we did go out and we did shoot it. And it's sitting on Daniel Alexander's hard drive. I may revisit the script now. I've had a bit more life experience myself, and maybe I can look at it in a different way, and there'd be some hope. That is the problem. There was no hope in the script,
Yeah.
and I didn't want it to be so bleak.
Yeah.
But I do. I feel like I have a moral responsibility there. But I made another film that looked at paradox, and it's called Where Is God Now? And Where Is God Now was about a couple that they were they were having a baby, and the baby the doctors tell them that the baby's going to have a very limited chance of survival. And again, that was based off of a article that I read in The Guardian, where a woman was suing the hospital because they told her that her baby was going to be okay. And when she gave birth, I think her baby had Down syndrome. And she said, had I had known, I would have terminated the pregnancy. And I thought, wow, like, what would I have done in that situation? I don't know. Do you know? So this couple they're really navigating this challenging decision, and the woman who's carrying the baby, she decides that she wants to have the termination, whereas the partner, he doesn't. And he says, come on, my mum, she prayed for you when you couldn't get pregnant. And the partner says, where's God now? You know?
Yeah.
But the really sad thing about that film was our lead actress, Tilly Coleman. She ended up during COVID taking her own life. And that was so sad. And I remember speaking to her prior, and I thought, it's so weird because when I was speaking to her, I was like, something don't feel right with Tilly. And our last conversation was she had rang me whilst I was at work. And I said to her, oh, Tilly, I'm just at work at the moment. I'll call you back. And then we went into lockdown, and everybody was dealing with their own I lived by myself during lockdown, and at the time I was working for Rape Crisis. I was a trainer, and I really didn't want to be delivering sexual violence training in my own home. It's just, so it's such a challenging time for everyone. And I said, Tilly, I'll call you back. And I didn't. And then when obviously she decided to do what she did, I just thought, oh my God, if I'd have called her back.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to like making films that explore quite severe mental health, we have a moral duty as artists to make sure that there is at least some hope. Sometimes there is, because there isn't hope in life, is there? And I think that's one of the things as humans, we need to see that there is some form of a light,
Yeah,
however small, or the possibility of an alternative.
yeah, yeah. And that can be quite powerful, can't it? I think when you see it portrayed, whether it's in the theatre, whether it's in a song, whether it's on the TV, and you can connect with somebody else's experiences that maybe
Yeah.
resonate with maybe the hurt that you are feeling inside, or the the black hole that you might feel that you're in, and then you can see actually there is hope for this character, even like you say, if they don't go down that route, there is this moment where it could be different. I think then as a person engaging with that, you
Mm.
might be able to think, okay, is there that kind of,
Hope.
yeah, connection for me? Is there that
Mm.
kind of different path?
Yeah.
And like you say, sometimes people choose for whatever reason the route that they go down, and that's
Sure.
horrifically sad.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess we all have those, and that's one of the things that Julie and I, when we were thinking about this podcast, was that we
Yeah.
wanted to be honest. We wanted to have these conversations,
Yeah.
but we wanted it to be without judgment or without saying this is what you should do. Because
Mhm.
we kind of don't know what somebody else should do, do we? We can say, this is our experience, this is what we've done, this is what's there.
Mhm.
But we can't tell people what they should be doing. But I think the theatre
Yeah.
and the film can give a reflection, can't they? That
Yeah.
people can take what they want from it
Yes, for
without
sure.
saying this is, you should be
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
It's, this is an event. You can take what you want from it,
Yeah.
whatever's going to be helpful for you. And I think that in itself can be very powerful, to know that there are other experiences out there that maybe reflect a bit about what you're going through.
For sure. I think I think that theatre sometimes can be like a bit of a mirror that we hold up to ourselves. We can see ourselves in it, whether it's through the protagonist or the antagonist, whether it's through the tempo of a piece of dance, whether it's in a painting, whether it's in spoken word or whatever. We can see ourselves sometimes. And I quite like experiencing new things. And I also think that theatre or film, more theatre, that's where my heart is. It transports you.
Mm,
You can travel back in time. You can travel to the future. You can travel to other countries. You can step into someone's imagination, and it's just beautiful. It's just out of this world. And I've seen children's plays. I saw a children's play. I think it was, might have been the unicorn. Might have been the unicorn. It was it. And it was about a young girl going into foster care. And so it was all about the house welcoming her in. And
yeah,
it was one of the most heartfelt, heartwarming, beautiful little plays that I had seen. And it was for children, but I really liked it. I
yeah,
saw
yeah,
another play, disabled led youth play, that was aimed at young people, and that might have been, that might have been the Unicorn as well. And it was young disabled artists, almost like poking fun at an ableist community.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so cleverly done. And it was for young people, but it spoke to me as
Yeah.
well. I felt seen, I felt visible. A friend of mine, Kaiser Rose, made a documentary, and it's called Visible, and it's about Black queer experience and the fact that they are also visible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which toured. So the beautiful thing about whether it is theatre or film is that you get to experience things that you
Yeah.
might not necessarily have ever been able to experience or see or witness. You get a
Yeah.
glimpse into other people's lives.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is that it gives you an in the moment experience, and it can cross generations, can't it? One
Yeah.
of my favorite memories of my childhood is that with my nan, every
Mm.
3 months we went to watch the amateur dramatic groups in our, and some of them were outstanding, some of them were, there was Sweeney Todd the musical. It was the most horrendous thing I've ever seen in my life, but it still connected us, it still made us laugh. Do you know what I mean? And I remember that, and we did that for years. And then when my son was born, we went with my nan, my mum, me and him, and saw theatre, saw like children's theatre, but we were all together, and those experiences we had within that theatre thing that you probably, there wasn't really anything else that would have been able to bridge that, those gaps of generations, going and seeing horrible histories with my son. And there was something in it for everybody, really.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
are just, I think, things that you can hold on to, can't they, for
Yeah, for
forever,
sure. For
really.
sure. You can walk away. And a great thing that I think of, a dramaturg friend of mine, Somebody Jones, said, she said that for her, plays, the work of the play happens in the car on the way home when you start
Yeah.
talking about it. And I think plays, especially the plays that I write, I want them, I want them to do the work when you go home. Sit down,
Yeah.
have a conversation about that character, have a conversation about that scene, have a conversation about what that character did. I think that's really important. That the play is like a conversation starter. I wish I could write a play about all the conversations that people have after they've seen a play.
Yeah.
Because I think when I'm at work, and we're theatre buffs, we love it. We'll sit there for ages talking about a play or a piece of work that we've seen. And I think when we're engaged in our conversations, that's suddenly where, oh yeah, but I thought that character would have done this, or do you think it was this? And oh gosh, yeah, because it really reminded me when I did this. And I think those conversations, that's the power of the space. That's the power of the work, especially theatre, I think, because it's live, because you're seeing the characters right in front of you. I still, though, because I went to go and see a sharing, scratch night sharing, somebody removed their top, and I just remember thinking, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. And then I was like, probably everybody's feeling like me, how we respond to nudity, or how we,
Yeah.
you know
I
what I
tell you,
mean?
I went to see something that I wouldn't have done. Some friends of mine in Brighton, actually.
Yeah.
It was the Brighton Arts Festival, and I can't remember the name of the dance company. It was not something that I would ever have gone to see. And so this friend had said, I've got this ticket. Do you want to go? And Brighton for me is a long way, but
Yeah.
I was like, let's go. And it was non-verbal, so it was
Uh-huh.
all dance. And then this guy came onto the stage completely, utterly naked. with everything out. And he was like there for a while, moving around. But I have to tell you, it was probably one of the one of the best things that I ever saw. And that thing about the music in your body, it was
Yeah.
so loud. And
Mm.
I live in a really rural place and I don't particularly like a lot of noise and a lot of people. But you could feel the music through the floor and
Mhm.
through your body. And it was one of the most. I wish I could name and remember the dance company,
Yeah.
but they were absolutely outstanding. But nudity, yes, there's bloke.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Everything. I was like, oh my God, but you couldn't stop watching
Yeah.
because they were all moving around. It was just amazing. But yes,
Yeah.
those kind of things, like,
Those little moments.
what's the key?
Or when a scene gets really tense and you're like, oh, what's he gonna do?
Yeah,
I think all of those you experience it.
yeah,
No, I think it's so hard. Like I said, I think it's both a visceral and a vicarious experience that we get in theatre that you don't get that with film because
yeah,
I'm what,
yeah,
but in
yeah,
theatre you suspend your imagination, you suspend
yeah,
your belief.
yeah,
Like if I'm in a show and I think this is not real, then I kind of question like what was going on there, maybe with the
yeah,
writing or the directing or whatever. But when I go in and I see a piece, I'm not watching somebody on a stage. I am in that moment. They are talking to me.
yeah,
I am with them. If they're in space, I am with them in space. If they are in 1920, I'm with them in 1920. If it's 2070, I'm with them in 2070. I really believe it. And
yeah, yeah.
I can suspend my belief. And I think that's also within itself quite calming, quite soothing. I think of theatre like this, right? This is going to sound so weird, but I've got a cockapoo, a little cockapoo puppy. And yeah, she's about 10, 11 months. And when we go out, she just wants to sniff everything. But sniffing for her is really calming, right? So I make sure that when she goes out on a walk, I factor in lots of sniffing time. And I feel like sniffing is what sniffing is for dogs, theatre is for me. It brings calm. It makes me, allows me to look at myself without looking at myself in
Mm.
an overtly therapeutic way. I can just see and go, okay, I remember that. I remember what did that character do? How did that character feel? And I think that is a beautiful thing about it.
Absolutely. And I think that is a great place to end our podcast.
Yeah.
What an amazing conversation,
Oh,
Sarah. I
you.
really love this. And at the end, if you can send, we'll put some links, won't we,
Yes.
of all the different things because you've got your own stuff going on. There's
Yeah.
the art council. There's the little play film of Where Is
Yeah.
God Now. So we'll put all those at the links to them at the bottom of
Fabulous.
the
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And thank you for
yeah.
having me.
Thank you. Honestly, I've loved it. And hopefully we can maybe catch up again in
For
12
sure.
months' time and hear a little bit more
Yeah.
about what's happened over the last 12 months in the Arts Council.
Fabulous. All right. Take care. Bye.